The backdrop is Conway, South Carolina, just a stone's throw from the bright lights of Myrtle Beach. Here, we meet Meagan Marie Jackson, born in 1985. By 2004, she was deep in a relationship with Greg Rice. They had 4 children, but never made it official. Meagan's job was unique, to say the least, a body transporter, using a modified Honda Odyssey to move the deceased for funeral homes, and the coroner's office, a truly morbid line of work. It was through this connection to the dead that she met Christopher Allen Dantel, and Horry County Deputy Coroner, a married man with 2 kids. In late 2019, Meagan and Greg separated, and Meagan, having received an inheritance, moved into a large 2,300 square foot home on River's Edge Drive. A shocking coincidence, as it turned out to be in the same neighborhood as Christopher. But what chain of events led from a seemingly ordinary breakup to a body dumped in a river? On Monday, October 5, 2020, Meagan reported Greg Rice missing, claiming he was last seen 3 days prior. When she spoke to the police, she even offered a theory: perhaps Greg had overdosed and fallen into a nearby river. Police searched his apartment and found his keys and wallet tucked into a patio chair, his car present, and no signs of forced entry. Just over a month later, on November 8th, Greg's body was recovered in the Little Pee Dee River. He was wrapped into blankets and a tarp, bound with straps and cable ties, and weighted down with a cinder block. The autopsy confirmed he was shot at least 5 times with a .22 long rifle. Investigators quickly traced the disposal items, the tarp and straps, to a local Lowe store, and reviewing the surveillance video, they saw the buyer, Deputy Coroner Christopher Dantel, who made the purchase the day after Greg went missing. The connections quickly snapped into place, revealing a web of deception that would soon explode. Police quickly uncovered a secret affair between Christopher and Meagan that had been ongoing since 2018. The motive seemed to crystallize when, just days before the murder, Meagan told Christopher she was pregnant with his child. On September 27th, 5 days before Greg vanished, Christopher's wife, Erica, received anonymous text messages exposing the affair and the pregnancy. Both Christopher and Meagan initially denied it, even suggesting Greg was the sender. Investigators, however, determined the messages came from Meagan herself, in an apparent attempt to get Erica to leave Christopher. This desperate plan failed. The timeline of the night Greg disappeared is chilling. At 6:16 p.m. on October 2nd, Meagan and Christopher were captured on video driving separate vehicles into a nature preserve. Then, quick dinner at a Mexican restaurant. By 9:14 p.m., their phones pinged at the Myrtle Beach funeral home, a facility both had access to. Shortly after, Meagan called Greg twice. At 10:00 p.m., Meagan's Odyssey minivan was seen entering Greg's apartment complex, and her phone pinged there. By 10:30 p.m., the phones of Greg, Meagan, and Christopher were all located at the funeral home. At 11:06 p.m., Greg's phone went dark forever. The pressure mounted, but the case was far from closed, leading to a desperate legal gamble. On November 11, 2020, Meagan and Christopher were arrested and charged with murder. They were briefly released on bond, but immediately violated the terms by contacting each other purportedly to exchange Christmas presents, which led to their bonds being revoked in June 2021. Realizing they lacked the definitive evidence to convict either, the state of South Carolina offered a deal: turn on your accomplice for a lighter sentence. Christopher initially minimized his role, claiming Meagan left him at the funeral home and returned alone, and he never saw Greg. Meagan countered, claiming Christopher coerced her into dropping Greg off at the funeral home, after which she left and never saw him again. Neither story convinced the investigators, but just as Christopher's trial was about to begin, he made a sudden, dramatic turn. On December 3, 2024, just before opening statements, Christopher Dantel pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit murder and accessory after the fact. His plea came with a stipulation: he had to testify against Meagan. The stage was set for her trial on June 10, 2025. On the stand, Christopher painted a terrifying picture. He claimed that on the night of October 2nd, Meagan asked him to drive her to Greg's apartment. When they pulled up, they saw Greg walking. Meagan allegedly ordered Christopher to make a U-turn, pulled alongside Greg, opened the passenger door, and executed him with a pistol, shocking Christopher completely. He then claimed Meagan screamed at him to load Greg's body into her body transport-ready Odyssey. They drove the body to the funeral home, stored it in a cooler marked, "Hold for Coroner," and then, under Meagan's death threat, Christopher carried out the disposal. He bought the materials the next day, retrieved the body, prepped it with the tarp and cinder block, and tossed it over a bridge into the river. The jury had heard the damning testimony, but did it prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt? On June 17, 2025, the jury rendered its verdict. Meagan Jackson was convicted of murder and sentenced to life in prison without parole. Christopher Dantel received 5 years for conspiracy and 15 for accessory, to be served consecutively, making him eligible for parole in July 2026. Meagan Jackson maintains her innocence. Her defense, arguing that Christopher, a proven liar with a clear motive to protect his family and career, killed Greg by himself. The state, of course, contends that while Christopher is untrustworthy, he told the truth when he pointed the finger at Meagan. So, let's analyze the evidence. Was Meagan Jackson truly guilty of murder? The inculpatory factors are compelling romantic relationship with Christopher, her manipulative attempt to break up his marriage with the anonymous text messages showing she wanted Greg to suffer physical harm, even having his brake lines cut, to which Christopher responded he was ready for this too. They were in Greg's neighborhood around the time of the murder, went to the funeral home, and Greg's body was later found with items Christopher bought. Christopher's testimony that he witnessed the murder and was forced to dispose of the body is key. Adding to this is his claim that Meagan was practicing with a firearm at the nature preserve just before the murder, supported by surveillance video showing her with a blow-up doll that appears to have been used for target practice. The discovery of an empty box for a .22 caliber pistol in Meagan's belongings, and the frightening testimony from her daughter Savannah, who recalled Meagan saying she hoped "what happened to your father happens to your sister," paint a sinister portrait. However, the exculpatory factors raise serious questions about Christopher's reliability. Meagan had been separated from Greg for 10 months, arguably diminishing her motive, while Christopher had everything to lose: his marriage, his career, and his freedom. Christopher repeatedly lied to the police, and his final story that he had no idea Meagan was planning to kill Greg, despite witnessing her practicing shooting beforehand, is nearly impossible to believe. He admitted to being an active participant in the aftermath, driving to the scene, loading the body, storing it at the funeral home, buying the disposal materials, and tossing the body into the river. His claim that he was forced by a death threat is undermined by his actions on bond, where he continued to meet with Meagan for Christmas presents. A strong argument remains that Christopher acted alone and is simply shifting the blame to Meagan for a better deal. When you weigh all the evidence, the lies, the body disposal, the affair, the texts, and the disturbing testimony, do you still believe Meagan Jackson is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt? In my opinion, the answer is yes. This is a chilling case study in toxic obsession and moral decay. Meagan Jackson presents as self-centered, impulsive, and deeply manipulative, evidenced by her bizarre behavior, including putting locks on the outside of her children's bedroom doors and on the pantry. She appeared to struggle with alcohol and was overheard by a bartender saying she hated her kids and thought about killing them. It's my theory that Meagan convinced Christopher to participate in the murder, making him an equal conspirator despite his attempts to minimize his role on the stand. His claim that he was only with her for financial benefit is laughable, especially given he violated his bond to see her. The most inexplicable part of this tragic story is the enduring support of Christopher's wife, Erica, who chose to stand by a man who cheated, conspired to commit murder, and then betrayed his partner. Christopher may have dodged a life sentence, but in the court of public opinion, the grim details of his actions and his character are indelible.